apologies. Apologies for the long wait for these teachings. I've been away, and so yeah, good to get going again.
Yeah, that can just that loss of the that is Tambo share goes good, Kangala Teshitele. Yeah.
So good. Tashi delay to everybody. The first time again, beginning the teachings again for this year.
Yeah. Well, so that Namjuna she channel, that's some Tamjaka to the Niba Sanja Koba, Matuna Tomato Tubachiki, and the Chedo and the Bechan just a Melapjan, two soon after Langi, Lawala, Shingle, Chibala, 12 Tijish Manowach quarter, and Kapsu Babateta, guess it's a bush while Juju and the Teshi to be digging some chat.
And so we'll begin as we normally begin, and by setting our motivation. And that motivation is, of course, to do whatever we possibly can to attain the peerless state of enlightenment in order to benefit all sentient beings, with knowing that in order to attain that state, we must perfect all the trainings on the Bodhisattva path. To train perfectly in those trainings, we need to understand what they are about, in reliance upon a non-mistakable source. And so it is with this in mind that we are here today to hear some verses from just such a source, the great text called the Bodhisattva's Way of Life, as composed by the great master Shantideva.
And that Namjuna channel, the commerce to be Chigurisa, or the National Compassion and Ranga Tungan Nagala, Tapjala, Tuja Chabo, the Tombashaja to be set up, or Ranga Tija Lama, but Tombashaja to be set up.
And so, as we normally do as well, since this is a kind of like in conjunction with our meditational practice, we visualize in the space in front of us in reality our own root guru in the aspect of Shakyamuni Buddha, who has skilled in means, is one face and two hands, and is wearing the saffron robes of a monk.
Ranga Tagodoya, Ranga Tsedi, Dingy Jamba, Pamane, Jebe, and Tsedi, Pama, Tsengama, Dingama, Jebe, Toma Mema, the Ranga Dinjabe, and the Majinga Semja Tamja, Masawa Mema, you some chat.
And that all around us are all kind mother sentient beings, beginning with those who are near and dear to us, our own parents, and going back into the parents of the previous life and the one previous to that, until we get back to all sentient beings, really, since beginning this time, who have acted in this role as parents for us.
Ranga Dungi Nagala said that Lama to be on Bote, Chibo Omgaba, Temba Amo, Tuga Hong, Yiga Subja set up, Tuga Hunle, we was about to Meba Trene, Rota, we was about to Meba Trene, and it we was about to Meba Trene, Taiba Magasinja Tanja, Tom, Tiba, Dancing Yamja Tanja Pachang. And Jang, and two Dujan, and the Chujigawa said that Chavala, and the bear Chubapi. Chubapine, Pua della Chuji Jawasa, Jaba, and Nicaso de Tugula Dewato, Deve Tombaja, Teronis Medici, some of Combacha.
And so the figure that we are visualizing is marked at the crown by an Om, at the throat by the syllable A, and at the heart center by the Sanskrit syllable Hung. And light rays emanate from that Hung syllable, going out into countless rays of light, going out into all directions, and purifying the negativities of all sentient beings. And the virtue that they create subsequently is made as an offering to the Buddhas, and they experience a sense of being pleased, and that transforms into a bliss which combines with voidness, and they abide in the wisdom of non-dual bliss and voidness.
Churi Gawasa, Jabal Chumapina, Churi Gawasa, Kuzu to Devatuma Tedonja, and more Churi Gawasa, that Kuzu to Yuan, but Naba, Tomba to be on and Tomba to be on part of Meba Jene, Rangi Dungan said, Lama to be on Burger, La Timne, and Lama to be on Della Timne, and it did and because of the more chicken of Kusu, Sansa check, 라야 두가 라마 두가 두가를 위해서 줘발라 때네 아니 가서 옹게라는 젠자 안장 원요 원래 미게가 오게바 줘서는 옹게라가 옹고네 아니 옹고네 아니 가서도요 가서 옹고 줄라마 찌서 미게가 오게데 어디는 공부시 음, 음, 음.
And so they all of these Buddhas in the 10 directions um, are there. They are kind of like a embodied in the aspect of the Guru Manindra Shakyamuni Buddha that we visualize in front. They come and to dissolve into our Guru Buddha that we are visualizing in the form of the wisdom beings, and they become one with the Buddha that we are visualizing. And again, then the light rays emanate, bringing forth the empowering deities, and they bestow the nectar of empowerment, some of which overflows from the crown and producing the figure of Akshobhya.
我的，我当时呢，我当然个对呢，赛的拉玛图表红不的，图表红不的，他一些吧，我是说呢，出去叫赛的这边打你，把就我等着，引把了，引把我这呢，我这呢，我等着就恐怕些，
So we have in our minds that the figure that now we are now visualizing in the space in front has been in a way fully empowered and consecrated by the wisdom beings and the empowering deities.
我的了，我等呢，俺们两个他过去的，甚至他们这了，甚至在他们这了，대화对着대화，米对吧，동해的，동해个这个呢，也这个，俺等于在他了동해 잡아 그래서 다들 동해 주대 대화 주는 지모 대화 주제 대화 대회 주대 되는 지모를 대화 주제 대화 쇼제 안 대화 동해의 민전의 지모를 민대화 주제 민대화 쇼제 아니 대다는 일이 차다 저 단요는 지모 내와 주제 내와 쇼제 어디는 고바시
And of course, bringing our focus to all the kind mother sentient beings all around, we realize that they are bereft of the happiness that they so desperately want, and they are inundated by the suffering that they so desperately do not want. And so we generate that sense of compassion for the suffering, wanting to remove that suffering, and the sense of love, wanting to bestow that happiness that they so desperately need. And so we consider the four immeasurable thoughts, how wonderful it would be if all sentient beings had happiness and the causes of happiness. And may that be the case. And may I see to it that it is the case. Oh, Guru Manindra, please bless me to make this so. And how wonderful it would be if all sentient beings were free from suffering and the causes of suffering. May this be the case. May I see to it that it is the case. Oh, Guru Manindra, please bless me to make it so. How wonderful if all sentient beings had the happiness that knows no suffering and the excellent bliss of liberation. May this be the case. May I see to it that it is the case. Oh, Guru Manindra, please bless me to make this so. And then, of course, the foundation for all of these is the generation of equanimity. How wonderful it would be if all sentient beings could abide in equanimity, free from attachment and anger, that holds some close and others distant. And may this be the case. May I really see to it that it is the case. Oh, Guru Manindra, please bless me to make this so.
我的这个什么叫来没被凝结的 아니 라마 투베 홍보라 다외 대바 이치게 대바 원도가 대바 소 아니 봐 왔는데 저 공부하시네 아니 라마 투베 홍보 가서도 구송들 위해서 빠도 매바 전에 아니 랑다랑 타고 심지어 당절라 봐 위해서도 마슈네 대 위해서 가보시 쳐와치 토마 매바 디바 지다 아니 켜봐도야 다 같이 저 소주와 맞아 미상을 줘봐 주요 참아 쓰던 가지 나선도 저 라다라 소베 다 같이 이게 주부 추던데 겨와라 써봐 아니 다 아니 가서래다 제가 소래 제가 하나마도 라시 하나마도 내가 컨디저 싸워이네 벤 빠장치 다네 오다 될 중소서 공부시
And so we're developing this sense of compassion for all sentient beings. We call on ourselves and all sentient beings to generate the triple faith of the faith of pure faith, the faith of conviction and aspirational faith in focusing on the Guru Buddha. Because of this, then light rays again emanate from the heart center of the Guru Buddha here with the white light, the purifying white light predominant. And this centers on the purification of all negativities, in particular, those concerned with the 10 non-virtues, the killing, stealing, sexual misconduct, the harsh speech, divisive speech, lying, and idle gossip, and the covetousness, malicious intent, and wrong view. And to really feel that these have been completely purified, as well as the categories of negativities, or that are kind of naturally occurring negativities, are all those that have been proscribed by the Buddha.
어디는 공부하시 아니 데 왜세 또 나가 임바 또 세부 셰자는 라마 투병 구소도를 연데 구소도가 연데 탐자 아니라 저 섬자 탐자를 저 톱수 다 야고 시고 중소 라마 투병 잡아도 추소 어디는 공부하시
And then the light rays emanate again, and this time with the yellow golden light predominant. This is the bestowing light, and it's bestowing actually the enlightened qualities of body, speech, and mind of the enlightened beings on us and all the sentient beings all around us. And so we rejoice in this and say, really feel that this is something wonderful.
다 간자 라마 투병 잡아온 다 야고 시고 중소선 어디는 공부하시잖아 다 간자 라마 투병 셈젤은 니제 라마 투병 홍보라 아니 다외다와 이제가 더 원도가 더 텐데 저기 때문에 어다 간자 라마 투병 홍보 고바 주베 치도 셈젤 탐제라 펜베 저 라마 투병 홍보 고바 주베 쳐도 다 간자 이제 산제 공부 마도나 탐내게 뒤에서는 장주에서 돈이 더 지라냐래 맞아 탐내게 근데 이번 인자 아니 계속 저 뭐시 war라게 세베 아니 준주고 되는 제시 팀이 얘기 인사저 어디는 고마시
And so with this mindset, on the one hand, of maintaining that trace of compassion and focusing on all the sentient beings all around us, as well as that faith, the triple faith of pure faith, aspirational, and conviction, faith of conviction in the Buddha, and that to really understand that our objective is, and indeed our obligation, our charge is, we've got to attain enlightenment in order to benefit all sentient beings. And this is the important purpose for which I am here, to understand how to go about that. And this is why I'm here, to listen to text teaching from the text known as the Bodhisattva's Way of Life.
가발려서 널 다이베 다이거든.
Yeah. The Shokdrang Nigya Juchik.
죽지. 야.
Juchik di ani somebody. Membe Gelpo. Choka Jampa. Di regen so. Somba. Membe Gelpo Choka Jampe. Ni maybe soba zeba. Ni leo dumba the zondru.
다른 것도 준주가 냠래 데카도 레버라 준주가 냠래 근데 치고래서 그래 어들 어다가 이제 준주 세대는 개발을 도와 어다 준주 시그레스 어든데 자 어다 갑도도 봐주셔야 갑도에서 다 숨바 멤버 개비어서 멤버 개비 초가 잠비 내가 사다 잠비어서 내면 뭐 소환 세발라 And
so we have arrived at the chapter 7, and chapter titled Enthusiastic Effort. And we have learned how the definition of enthusiastic effort is that which rejoices in virtue. And we have arrived indeed at verse number 24. And it's the subheading, a third subheading, where it's saying that the king of medicine, the medicinal kind of conqueror, uses an extremely gentle technique in order to overcome illness. So this is something that we should be able to handle, to bear.
是，他感觉这他这个我说，这个年那在中华一百以内呀，俺年那在长不去中华一百呢，俺明白开发点着呢，俺第年那在绝大个切多，然后东个特别所有这个的吧，俺说本来我在想觉得结巴的多巴了说吧，我点这个，俺这个，但俺面就觉得这刚才忙不这个的吧，那刚才点切的。안에 저 수부 대탕 용해치도 수부 탕보 용해치도 안에 강에 침비 중화대 안에 서버 지금 열어봐 서버 지금 열어봐 어다 서버 지금 다 되나 현재는 가서 안에 초기 남내 제발 가라 안에 준주 서버 가라 침비 강에 체계다 강에 체바대 안에 서버 지금 그랬어 가서는 안에 배 대한 야채보죠 주배체도 안에 강에 침비지 안에 딱 강에 침비 중화대 다 려다 지고 그랬어 이내 강에 침비 중화대 가서 내 나자 죄도 아니 제 강에 중앙제 때문에 강에 요 말이었어. 아니 멤버 다 멤버 개보서다 다 저기 지다 저가서 멤버 개보서 상계 좀 되더라 멤버 개보서 내게 나는 지슈되다 녀모배 내 임바이사 녀모배 내달라 되나다 내가 그 내디가 건가 용어여래 아니 코에 동에 탐제 아니 녀모배 내들라 되는 용어 요바이사 아니 뒤쪽에 멤버들 멤버 개보서는 상계 좀 되다 멤버 개보서 아니 멤버 개보대 남쪽 먼저 멤버 개보 속에 아니 죄다 집발래 아 시작에 아니 강에 중앙 요랬어 탑 개보 강에 중앙 요래마도 되게 남쪽 먼저 내나자 강에 죄다 지게 강에 딜레 아니 멤버 개보 상계 좀 되게 상계 좀 되게 아니 가라서 추게 냠내지 아니 녀목에 내 자원에 타야지도 강에 되게 딘들레 강에 중앙 요랬어 탑 개보 장부 돈은 그래서 멤버 개보 초가 신도 잡에 내매 봐 쏘았지 녀목에 내매 봐 쏘았지 그래서 안 되네 이마자 되네 먼저 셰베 돈에 아니 수요리 봐라 숨자 숨자
So the overriding concept to be grasped here, to be understood, is that the image of the expert doctor and in relation to our having an illness. And so here, when we have illness or a sickness of any kind, we like to find the most learned, the most expert, most reliable doctor to be able to not only understand what we have, but to be able to prescribe the course of action and the medicine that we need to recover. And in doing so, we are willing to undergo a certain degree of pain and discomfort, whether it's from an operation or the recovery time that we have to go through, and the various maybe problems, hiccups along the way to overcome infection or whatever. And so it's in order for us to have once again a fit body, a healthy body, that we are willing to undergo a certain amount of hardship. And so here it's something that we kind of have built into ourselves, that yes, when we make that decision to rely upon the doctor, that we will make the effort to handle whatever comes our way, the discomfort, etc. And so when it comes to the king of medicine, and this is the epithet given to the Buddha, that it is not the ordinary common disease and illness that the Buddha is primarily concerned with. The illness that the Buddha is prescribing for is the mental afflictions. And so this is the great issue, the great problem. And so in order to overcome the mental afflictions and to recover from that particular illness, we are the prescription is to engage in virtue with enthusiasm, to rejoice in that virtue, to adopt the practice of enthusiastic effort, and knowing also that when doing so, it is very likely that you will come across difficulties and obstacles and various sufferings. but you are also to consider that they are slight, they are easily manageable, and that we should really put up with them with a certain amount of relish and enthusiasm, because of the great purpose for which we are working and striving. And that is, of course, to attain enlightenment for the benefit of all sentient beings. So in the course of that, we are, we also have this idea of building into our mentality that, yes, we will encounter difficulties and problems and so on, but they are going to be easy to handle, because we have such a very powerful aspiration.
Because the men be gewusel men di lalen dagen ge ane be tab kebe sange chomde de la men be gewusel lavle de choga de yang de namju kaso de shakjue da de le dae de so choga to subu yorwa yine da dende ge da 지금 가서 데 타바다 탐제 캠베 두베게 ane 냠랭게 de choga subu mewa an tab제라 투제 첨보데 de 또 마샤제 두베게 tabkebe 토네 근데 오늘 저 주마도에 매디가 탑 개배토네. 근데 남중 가서 류게 내자 세시도 아니 쥐다게 샥바다 똑바다 근데 그 강에 태발래 시작에 강에 매봐. 탑 개보 잠비게 내 매봐. 내게 자원내 매봐. 안 소한 제베 안될 소리 걸어 숨제도 된 소제게 동에 쌈양 녀미고 봐. 소제게 동에 남주 가서는 샥쥐다 똑바다 제발라 소바 근데 그 동에 쌈 녀미고 봐. 녀미가 안 내게 자와 녀모도 좀 아니 뒤에 자와 단지 말이가 바차다 잡아 소야 탑잡아 제발라 아니 류 동와라 까베 로유베 제 동가 또야류 동와라 류 동에게 냠내 된데 용구 요때 얘네요 류 동어 까베 가서 다거다 감다 투바져 조구 유대 아니 근데 까베 내가서 로유베 제 아니 동와디야 까니 어디 단지요 말세 카예 아니 되네 아니 랑게 검네 아니 소마 동화단 자와라 검베세 아니 류 동화 숨바 아까와 메바 오서 와데네 그 문에 단나 땅투베 뒤줄면 말레나 아니 에 가자 요래 안 되네 연사카 아니 베 류라 소마 답에 소마 동화 내시게 베 땅 대부 차베 갑라 아니 류 동화 숨야 데 류고 거바 두두야 소야 와데네 숨베 안 되네 이마 인삼 그 두마도와 되네 요마서 까와 메바 오서 소쪽에 르바신도 치바이나 두마도와 요마레스 메바 오자
And so, yes, this outline is the saying that the king of medicine, the great physician, the Buddha, it doesn't engage in operations and the cutting or anything else like that. That his methods in order to overcome the mental afflictions are extremely gentle techniques. And in this way, that he operates in this way in order to overcome our particular kind of mental illness, I suppose you'd call it. And this has three subheadings that we'll deal with. And so the Buddha, the teacher, not only allows us to recover from suffering, but also has the expertise so that we do not have to experience it again. And this is the way in which the great illness of mental afflictions is recovered from. And this is the means by which the Buddha operates. The second of these subheadings is that for some, that the giving, for example, hard, difficult practice of giving of the body, giving parts of the body, parts of our flesh. And so that in the mind can seem to be very, very difficult, and that can operate as an obstacle to our being able to engage in such generosity. And the third subheading is indeed connected to the second. Indeed, they act like a kind of pair. And so it's saying, in order to counteract that, and this is something that has been taught, that if we can become familiar with the whole practice of generosity, such that we can give food, for example, and it's of no difficulty for it, becomes extremely habitual for us to be able to do that. And then eventually, the whole idea of being able to give parts of our body when necessary becomes similarly easy, and the difficulty goes out of it. And so it's all about the gradual approach, so that one builds up that power and that courage.
로 먹으면은 지금 사회 통해 응어부 충족이네 지혜를 강해 열봐. 로 고바이나 아니 배 자체보다데 응어부 자체보다데 대외를 강해 매되게 되래. 아니 응어부도 고바 통하이나 강해 매되게 이런 거 봐. 당보 저 먹어 아니 배 제마도 와이나 라바 예유 지네 고미에 되는 연구요래. 배나 배 코너 르마도 게 15지 현자 15요나 아니 라바 예바네 요발라 파 심제실의 증거요 삼사체. 야 yani yabane yabala paje ani yabele yabala paje tede ba ton saba komne ton saba kom jela ani rala gyuta de kansa la jimbala ne kan me kenchi yo de yo ba hotel sempe loko beche so jongo yeza.
And so it really all comes down to mind habituation. If it's there, then all acts following subsequently become easier. Without that habituation, then even giving of small things like items of food and so on become a difficulty. One can be it can be very difficult. And so if it's like that, if we have that much difficulty where we find it difficult to part with anything, then one can simply engage in the practice of giving from one hand to the other. So you have an item in your right hand, you pass it over to your left hand and pass it back and forth like that, until you get the most rudimentary habituation going in order to be able to give. And then when that increases, that can increase, that process of habituation to increase, whereby we may be able to give a limb to another if necessary, with the same sense of ease as we would have given, say, a mouthful of food.
가서는 당부 그 진배 연대 통고로 진배 평행 통고로 진바 딜라 때네 로 앞에는 것은 마진바데 아니 요제 되게 소도로 평 통고도 섬네 아니 덴데지 평행지로 고코는 땅 두고 요 말봐 다 딜레라가 아니 진바 땅 왔을 때는 아니 타입에 막게 섬제게 탐제게도 산제 고마 둡두고 요 바지 평행지 통 평행을 예바예바 이나 아니 진바 땅 왔을 가세 요거 말고 배는 뭐부 중주지 땅 와 이바 이나야 고노 타입에 막게 심제 탐제고 산제 고마 토베쳐도 아니 땅와이나 산제게 주두고 여바제 아니 예바예바이나 아니 된데게 짐바타라 뭐부 충주지 짐바타라 강가 용거 말봐 거다 연대도 통네 아니 연대 통데 오고 짐바타라 같으면 당부 집에 연대 통 폐연 로와 폐연 통네 아니 짐바타 도와 중국으로 와 짐바타 도와 아니 되레 짐바타 뭐 먹어도 라바 예연라 와다스 디 심제 셰 예삼사 안 텔라 펜베 삼로칸 파 라바 예르다 예라다 오 데레 검검데 아니 남시나 아니 뭐보라 바디게다 팀비 땅도 와인 거와 다 데네 지메가 연데데 띵 삽다 하고도 아니 지네 아니 검로 검은데 아니 가리네 지바 땅 도와치 가서 지바 딜라 때네 타이베 마게 심제 탐제게 아니 또 산제 고마 두투가 시원데 아니 로다 진배 론주 팀기 데스 가서는 지바다라 때네다 샘제싱게 된주베체도 아니 튕게 푸소 소바디게 연구해 봐도 시바이나 아니 딜라드는 지바라 좋아게 연구와 단단 것도 지바당 모두 집에 필요 마신 받체 아니 디 지바 마당에 소소를 냐와이나 소소를 팬 토고 여바 하고다 안 땅거 요 말와 다 소소를 팬 딜레 쳐가지고 토고 여바이나 아니 주디 아니 가서데 가서도 주의 인보시 레트고 여바 통화도 아니 지바다이라 좋아게 물어와.
So the complementary kind of argument for generosity, along with habituation, is also to be able to see the quality and the benefits of generosity in itself. That when we find it very difficult to give, and we have the argument that, oh, I'm going to keep this for myself, this is going to be to my benefit, and so what is there is that may well be the case, but one is not able to actually derive the maximum benefit from that object, from that act of generosity. That when we really try to kind of like generate the motivation to give, and to have the motivation that I am giving this object to you ostensibly, but I'm keeping in my mind that it is a gift to all sentient beings. May it be of benefit to all sentient beings. Now, in that act, you are doing something far more profound. You are not just, of course, generating the habit, but you're laying down the causes to attain the state of enlightenment itself. And so that's the quality of generosity when given with the right motivation. And so one must see that there's a great deal of significance, even in insignificant acts of generosity. Again, to understand that when we have a difficulty and we're using that giving from the left to the right, from the right to the left, and so on, in practice, we can visualize that that one of those hands is another sentient being, and we are giving to them. And we are, again, habituating the mind to being able to part with something for a greater purpose, to be able to understand that the essence of giving is in kind of like is in bringing benefit not just to one other sentient being, but to all sentient beings. And so this is kind of really being able to generate a sense of far more profundity in the kind of normal acts that we engage in. And so, the way that we can give, it becomes, as it says in the texts, from generosity comes wealth. And so it's not from amassing, it's from giving. And this is something that we very, very important, that when we keep for ourselves, we are not gaining the most benefit from what that object is, and that we're not able to assess the essence of that phenomenon, that thing. And so it's kind of like really sees that that the essence of a thing comes in its giving, in its being able to be used in an act of generosity. So we got to increase that sense of the quality of the object and the benefit that's accrued through generosity.
그것은 지 여바이나 타만은 매바 차주 주니데 다 여베 뒤라 아니 여베 뒤 아니 소소야 마시 쇠베 뒤들 샹 시바이나 아니 집에 편유지 렌토고 도와 다 소소 시사바이나 집에 편유 렌토고 봐서 타만은 소소다 카테도고도 소소다 카테도고도 봐도 카바데 좀 도와 나 카테도도 카마데 게네 아니 소소게 펜베 선베 꾸나라는 집어 땅도나 아니 집 가서 롱주게 가서 롱주게 님보데 렌토고도 와 왔다 가자 꾸노야 보겠네 진도바나 다 가자 근데 배다 내다 뭐 뭐지 시바이나 아니 그 지금 가서 집어 땅 마도 가서 차베 선베 온게 차베 선베 온게 땅 두고 요 말봐 어디래 다 된서 콜로 검다도 집에 땅 두고 정거 다 된데 다 가이나면은 다 당보들 데려서라 가서对面 소제게 동해 잠야 녀명거 버자 내치부 소야 탑도 봐 가서는 뭐 이게 내주 시바제네 시베 탑도네 아니 르마시도 탑도온데 아니 신에 그 전제 온거도 전전의 숙충的저도 그 땅도에 정부 요와 된데서 좀 제바 이마자 다딜라 자월래 소제 페바 된데와 멤버 초제 마제데 초가 신도 잡부에 내제 밤에 소와제스
And so, yes, that of course, if we don't have, then we don't have the opportunity to give, to manifestly give objects. But if we can use our own visualization and imagination to engage. If we do have, then it's very, very important for us to understand the benefits of being able to give, and to give with that sort of most expansive, most profound, expansive motivation as possible for the benefit of all. And of course, not to leave it until we die, which is really a tragedy, because then our various possessions will only be divided up, and the chance to be able to gain the essence of them is lost in a sense. And understanding that that which holds us back from giving is the mind of attachment, of clinging, and that that can, as we have pointed out, be overcome through the gradual process of habituation, of being able to learn how to give, to teach one's mind how to give, and to loosen that attachment is very, very important. And to understand that process of attachment also is bound up in our self-cherishing attitude. They are acting together. And so the first subheading was that the teacher overcomes is able to cure suffering, not only cure suffering, but to guarantee that we can not experience it again. So has the means by which we can overcome great illness, as it were. And this is dealt with in verse number 24, which says, "But the supreme physician does not employ common medical treatments such as these, which with an extremely gentle technique he remedies all the greatest ills."
What in the general, what in the top yellow to the Chomo de Sanga Chomden again, chicken. Changing the lesson, and don't have some patron, don't have some com. And the chicken castle, don't have some comne, and it don't have some command, and it chicken castle there, and the chicken penachimbe Yamlechiva, Casembe chatted. Yeah, and so to get castle the Nubala Papa Pachibatangi Tangi Jamato, so the money was it Batango Yomari. So the two at the Chimbatan, Matuba Chibatango Yamarco, Rangi single comne, and when I done Chibatan say you to the Pantoy Chimbayina, and Rangi Semo Comsonata, Semo Gomasona, and Tande Pembe Samlotane, Tonsen Pechene, ya, Neka Matan shop. And when I done it down to Bacheta, and was a part time, because Ribashi the mother so Patuba check where your mother so top killer, but and Tada de want to because Nesovia, and because Soja Pebatin there. 남주 패박 암지 패박인데 지야바다 뚜바다 아니 지가서 돼 얘는 푸발라서면 당간제 지고 또 지금 그래서 룰을 주부터네 인제 소소 나다를 팬거 여바 간실라 또 지금 가서 지가서는 또 지금 수부부터네 지야되는 지금 수부를 깡에 태네 아니 소답 지야되네 암지 상계 좀 전에 탑절을推起보다 되네 가서 요 말했어 랑게 아니 배 지금 틀려전에 대한갈 대전에 아니 쪼데 로아카사데 녀몽가 따와 단지 머리베게 녀못된다 아니 딜라테네 아니 녀몽 샤바티게 데 아니 충다 땅답지에 로아 충다 땅답지에 가서 모두 지바 땅 마도하다 소바 고마도하다 수좀 소마도하다 가래 군거서 녀몽 온거 용거요 봐 녀몽 온거 여반에서 녀몽을 깨야 때 녀몽도 때라 대한가라 흘르전 도지기 좀전 대전에 and no the water about Jenny, and no more the shook to the Tamina, Sutime, soon to go there. Got there, Chimbaya down to go there, Sunday some to go there, Survive gone to go there. Yamlet get jet to go there somewhere. What did they invite up? Attended the Amji Kuma to get men jet up to the sometimes Jita Nazala Pengu your day, you know, jet up Gasha was a super canny over the Yungu Yorba. Tende tap시 tende 강에 매베톤에 탑결라 투제 전부 되면 매버 초기 어떻게 지금 말서 초가 신도 잠을 건네 탄이 좀 하러 왔잖아 아니 세고 라내면서 봐 아니 지단 내면라서 봐 때네 아니 배 가서 녀모배 내 빠도 매봐도 쏘아지 그래서 내가 싸워 단지 말이 봐 대니 뭐 다음에 또 배셔 되게 배 못해네 Ani dia rigbe lamne ngoten ani wote da chan ani be ngoten ani rigbe ta ti nyamsulane jesu jinza ani jigo ba mares jigma go so ani shena chigo mares to ba tude chembe kamda tumba meba da tumbe kone ani be nyamne chida riba chore riba da range mano wa chen nyamsulang to ba na ka yo mares.
So yes, again, the Buddha is referred to as the one who is skilled in means, and this means that operates in the sense of generosity with a fully fledged, fully perfected mind of generosity, without even the smallest trace of attachment in it. And so this is, through being able to overcome all the obstacles to such a mindset, namely the mental afflictions, that wrong view of grasping at the true existence of a self-entity. And it's our charge, and it's our responsibility, and even trying to emulate what the Buddha has done, for us to gradually reduce the nefarious influence of the mental afflictions and this wrong view of seeing a true existence of a self-entity. And again, it's this process of being able to take the correct approach and to practice it diligently and with generating the right habituation, the right habits to back it up. And that the Buddha is kind of skilled in means. He has that mind of generosity. He is from our point of view, pointing out that we can operate in the realm of, say, generosity with as little attachment as we can possibly manage, and to also be able to see the benefits of what we are doing in every act of generosity. And that, again, to kind of develop those similar skilled means that the Buddha employs in our actions, and in kind of focusing on generosity in the act of generosity itself. And also in the recovery from, we're talking about illness and the contrast between the modus operandi of a doctor, a regular doctor who, will, in trying to figure out what's wrong with you, need to poke, need to cut, and to actually be quite invasive, and thereby create a great deal of suffering. And that here it's it may be the case that yes, that we will recover, but we will have to go through a great deal of pain and soreness, etc., through that kind of approach, that's a regular doctor approach. And whereas the contrast is with the Buddha's modus operandi in allowing us to overcome our particular illness of mental affliction, that the process is extremely gentle. And that here it's to come to an understanding that we can, in just remaining on our seat, deal with the essence of the problems that we have in overcoming our mental afflictions, and indeed applying the antidote of wisdom to the ignorance of grasping at the true existence of a self. And that here we understand, on the one hand, that through our sustaining of these mental afflictions and this wrong view, we are, as it were, empowering the inability to engage in perfect ethics. We are putting obstacles in the way of our generosity, our generation of patience, and the generation of enthusiastic effort. And so it's understanding that relationship, understanding where then we can put our focus. So the focus is now on understanding that we have to reduce the influence of mental affliction. We have to, at every point, try to apply the wisdom to overcome the ignorance of the self-grasping self-entity. And in doing so, the more we are able to reduce the influence of mental affliction, the more we are again opening up our potential for abiding in perfect ethics, of really improving our practice of generosity, our application of patience, and our application of enthusiastic effort. And so this is to understand that, you know, all of what we can do here is through this kind of gentle approach that has been prescribed by the Buddha, and that we have to, if we are serious about this, we are going to integrate a practice that is gradual and that is unmistaken. And if we can do that and be consistent and persistent in our practice, then we will not meet with problems on that path.
Yeah, what the pena dirin jimbe nyamlenge kasa de jimbe nyamlen kor ani lobjon chene ani sani jimba pe pi tabo tangdo ko yongya kola yomar ba wada lobjon che ani jimba ta jimbe nyamlen chigen chige ani kasa de kulong kande chegudo ani tapsi kande ne chegudo ani jimbe nyamlen de peyon kande to ro ani de jimbe nyamlen jidang gorim kande chegudo ani del라된 제부 근데 송구도 아니가 내주 찾아 심바잖아 아니 고림 맞춰가 쳐네 아니 가서데 지 제바이나 아니 림베 어거 야다 쳐네 아니 타르치 베냠레 피타보 용투예치 아니 딜라 고에 튕겐디게 되고 왔다 가다데 루아치베 추림 아니 지바 아니 집에 춘서바 집에 춘주 아다 되게데 아니 집에 땡게진 안 집에 셔랍라 소바 되게 튕게되게 좁아체 아니 집에 비다다다 쪽으로 와 추림 내다가 와 아니 추림게 아니 추림게 집아 아니 추림게 서바 아니 추림게 춘주 삼대 추림게 셔랍서 그 튕게되게 좁아체 아니 어떻게 되는 아니 관심 리메 아니 추림게 비다다 돼 춘주에 대신 전에 그 비다다 쪽으로 튕게되게 상하잖아 그 뒤에 집에 그 럽전 도와서 산이 집에 비다고 찾아다도 그 영화 그걸 뭐 시도 하잖아. 그 쪼고야지. 아니 드레스 좋아나 아니 강에 매버지 제두고 요. 와 어떻게 숨고 요. 어떻게 제. 다들 임바자 소소 제 셀라 답변 제거 가요 말 소소 대가가 대네. 아니 배 삼로탄네. 아니 삼로탄한테 거름 맞춰 하자. 딱딱딱네 집어이나 아니 저거 집어 주도 소바 삼del라 소바 냠네 차사지 그 지금 르셈라 강에 매버토네 다 제투에 줘래 숨고 그 제투에게는 남들데 너무 투배 온비가 딱 가서도 탑제나 투지 첨부도 된바게 아니 거기서 거림 맞춰왔지 나샤라 뒤도 투배 소소 좋아하는 제마도 남자 개요 말 강에 개요 말 숨고요 어때
So, for example, if we look at the practice of generosity and the training in generosity, we're talking about this process whereby we become fully informed and we are able to engage in it in order, in the right order and so on, in a non-mistaken fashion. So then we are considering initially, of course, the motivation behind and to enhance the breadth and depth of that motivation. We are then looking at the means by which we can actually engage in this action. We're looking at the benefits of generosity. We've also looked at the different stages of being able to actually do a proper act of generosity, and the results as well of what might be the results of an act of generosity. In other words, we have all the steps in place in the right order, and so we're able to engage in that in a kind of very professional manner. And so if we are able to do that, if we have that approach, then there's no doubt that the efficacy of our generosity will increase and bound to improve in all ways. And that then we can look into how, for example, all the six perfections are integrated together, so that there's the the generosity of generosity, the generosity of ethics, generosity and patience, generosity, enthusiastic effort, generosity of meditative concentration, generosity of wisdom. And just as, for example, ethical conduct would be the same, and that you look into all the different angles of being able to abide in ethical conduct, and then understand how it integrates into, there's the ethics of ethics itself, the ethical conduct related to generosity, the ethical conduct related to patience and enthusiastic effort, meditative concentration, wisdom, etc. And the same goes for all of the six perfections. And so it's the gradual approach, that which is doing things in the correct order, and that to understand that there will be no problem, and that to understand also that according to the Buddha's gentle technique, we can remain in one seat and being able to really adjust our thinking is the means by which we can easily perfect all of these practices without problem.
Niba lu tongwa la kawe lo yuwe tse tongwa kakpa nisa tsawa le tsoma la so jimba la ya jembe thoma jowa tse dele komne chine ne rimje ranje shaya toksim.
And so the next verse and the next subheading, the second, says that when one feels the difficulty of being able to give one's body or parts of one's body, then that puts a stop to being able to give in that way. And verse number 25 looks at this. At the beginning, the guide of the world encourages the giving of such things as food. Later, when accustomed to this, one may progressively start to give away even one's flesh.
Jimba nyamzo lewe tse tangbo ande sen ruwa sen kala tala spas wala sen da ane changbo sen ane pena kaso de disada de dala changbo chi luksu yor wada changbo chi batang ya da wada ga ane choma la so ba dele jimba le yang ko jige koso de lo komchu ne dembe ane sanje jomden denje wada dele jine rimba shine ba che jine ane lo komchu ne ane jomden denje thoma joan sela dene kawa mebe tseta lo komendo komne ane chine ringe range ta mune goba yona goba keba che mune rane goba keba che na range ane shada thala so ko to le yan kawa meke chi yon de des o lo ta ngar ke se tani chimbu su ge namda le teba ina o ta she tu ye shu ruwa wo den de kasana de ga lo kombe on yon de yorwa ruwa ta kombe on yon de yorwa de chen o ta gon ta 강가 되게 랑게 로아다 냠내 따다 제마 좀 거다 괜찮게 강가 다제 말이 보다 란체지니 제도 란체지다 다제 말이 바니기 라테네 아니 고 냠내 되게 되피다고 많이 와 정도도 같아디 란체지가 경 것도 많이 샤와다 다제 말이 경 것도 많이 삼도 따네다 되게 젠진이게 경 통에 통에 아니 다음에 배도는 게 봐. 띵지섭도 치 아니 란체지게 젠진님 고도네 현진지가 로데 아니 지사도 좋아도 아니 딜라테네 당 가져도 아니 냠네 샤바데가 지게도 아니 배 가서데 랑슈고 용되겠지 용아 딜라테네 제 동네다 가세 칸에 매되겠지 용되고 요라 가서데 매배서 로kom나 치네 림제 란제 다 루게 샤다 탈라서 봐 동네 가오면 용되게 됐어 되게 어제
And so the great guide of the world, Shakyamuni Buddha, has recommended that when we are engaging in the practice of generosity, that we begin with the giving of food and drink and vegetables, etc., and so that we become incredibly familiar with that. So it doesn't cost us a thought, and that there's a degree of spontaneity around that. And so it's saying that when we begin like that, then and find no difficulty and habituate the mind in such a way, then gradually we will, when the occasion calls for us, be able to give the flesh of our own bodies. And so here, again, of course, this is in line with being able to understand that the difficulties we have in any kind of virtue are compounded by the fact of our grasping, our self-cherishing, and our self-grasping. And it's in working consistently against those attitudes through our being able to gain a deep appreciation of cherishing others, and see why that is a great counter measure to self-cherishing, and to kind of build up that idea of the importance of the preciousness of others in opposition to the kind of like really clinging, that very kind of a degenerative kind of mindset of self-cherishing. And so once one has that sense of importance of others, then ultimately, when we have generated that familiarity, then the giving of our body, the giving of part of our body, of flesh and so on, is going to again become much easier, to the point of spontaneity. And so this is what's recommended.
soma tongwa tan tawa kombe se an lu tongwa sung yo rima to an nga sa ne lu tong gu de sung yo ma lu tang gu de sung yo ma de chi dan wo de ta long kom ne ani nam chen da lu tongwa yin ba yin na ya be chi ka so de ta tong gu ye ge de la pa so na lu tongwa ne ka se me ba cha ta kombe ong gu yong de ge yo ba za wo de ne chen wo de chen suba sa soma tongwa da zhuwa gombe tsa lu tongwa sungpa ni gangsa rangi lu la ni chocho tabi lo ki la dese sha la so tongwa de la kawa jishi yu xa.
And so here, again, the emphasis is on habituation, becoming thoroughly familiar with, as it were, more regular acts of generosity will lead to our being able to give more and more. And that, again, just through the process, strengthening our mind of generosity through habituation. The third of these three subheadings was that, again, the giving of food, or the giving of veg and so on, that and similarly, once we are able to gain habituate the mind to being able to give like that, then there will be no problem, no difficulty in being able to give something more profound. And verse number 26 says, "At such a time, when my mind is developed to the point of regarding my body like food, then what hardship would there be when it came to giving away my flesh?"
De da gombe sa wa da de ne ge jiba tang bo je chung chung ne pa kwa san chang jiba ne pa kom ne lo da de ge la ba ye yu le jiba ne je ne pa kom ne ne san chang jim ye shi ra da ju da ba le san chang jiba ne chen ta ga sen de chang bo la so ba da ga de jiba ko ne so ma la so ba da ga so de tang tu de pa kom kan za ne de da gombe 강게 때 근데 뒤 남신다 거 뒤에 솔라 미네바 임바인 자코들 좋아해 줘 그러와 다들 코피 다다 저데 강게 다 펜바 중앙이나 펜도 운에 여바이나 다 랑게 그래서 르라다 처마라 소바 동화다 켜바 매긴 게다 간제 펜베스 샬라 펜스 토고도 땅 토에게 되는데 누바실한테 답이 로케바나 뒤에서 랑게 르게 샬라 소바 동화 임베 아니 근데 지금 갑라래도 아니 고 단전다 제제 랑제제면서 시엔 바시 펜바 주에이도 그 가병 안에 땅 도와준 거로서 근데 강에 가려서 모두 땅 모두 전쟁 온거 용대 거로 지시 유예돼 중세점에 셔봐오자 셔봐오자
And so here it's saying that again through the process of habituation, and that once we have generated that, again starting small, as Genda pointed out, giving the left hand, giving to the right, and so on, that once we have developed a certain level of habituation, then such as giving of food, etc., then once that mindset has been generated, then ultimately we will be able to, at the time, give flesh of the body, and that it will be no difficulty for us, as it says here. What hardship would there be when it came to giving away my flesh? And so this is again through the process of habituation.
我的变得查为呢，三个中间这个个啥的这个啥的三节中间的三嘛这边个讲究什么，安个啥냠래 남래搞了，安大莫捋见了捋起的，我们赶紧做新闻的情况要吧，就告诉我大的大莫阿妈去了，安不爱有吧就不过的谁马了呗，刚开始我就车的呗搞了，第四件呢，安四件呢，安把捋起不当呢。아니 류지 바타오데 아니 류지 바타네 다들 아니 다게 사로지고요 말다 저 삼합여데 아니 되는 파 샤전 차 마되네 아니 마사죠 아니 마센 아니 편바타네 단단 얘기 아니 배 된데스게 아니 지가 소리다 샤다게 짐바타와디 아니 디 당서게 유디 당네 대 계획 잡아들라 되는 거 뭐바서 상계배세 얘기 추기 집어 당부들라 진도가 쇼스 되게 편바당한테 아니 상대 좀 되대 저거 두고 나발 때는 아니 뭐바서 상계네 샤십 도이들 상계 샤십지 샤고절 와르나서 초바당 먹고도 코로나 때디 다중가디 차대요 봐 어떤데 자 간제 그거 다 뒤라 세원도 아니 다들 문에 전에게 딜라 편바 딜라 때는 상계가 유튜브 투고도 캔도 아니 저 평생당 되게 가야매 봐자 가서 가야매 봐자 집안 나 두고 열 봐. 가서 로 건배 온거 용 되게 열 봐. 로 건배 온거 용 되게 열 봐.
And so this ability to give most kind of spontaneously and without regret, as kind of being exemplified in that story of one of the lives of the Buddha prior to attaining enlightenment, where he was walking in the forest and came across a starving tiger mother with 4 cubs, who were on the verge of dying because they hadn't got any food. And he immediately determined that they would eat of his flesh. And even to the point where he actually cut some meat off his own body to give to them, and dedicated his whole body, and in that way, with the motivation of being able to be of benefit to all. And in particular, he said that may this be the cause that these 5 beings here will be amongst the first disciples of mine when I attain the state of enlightenment. And of course, this came to pass some 2,600 years ago in Sarnath, when these were the first 5 to receive the first turning of the wheel of Dharma by Shakyamuni Buddha. And so this kind of emphasis on this spontaneity of being able to give, and having absolutely no regret. And this is all through the power of habituation.
아니 랑게 샤타가 이네 바치바 땅투가지 아니 디 닝부데 렌투고도 산제가 줄어 줘대 와다 되게 닝부데 렌투고도 와다 다들가 당분에 들려 용하는 말이야 깨봐 먹보라 검제네 그러와 검네 아니 집에 냠래 낭제네 아니 들려 검네 아니 제라 랑게 가서데 다 류땅와라 아니 가서 매겐지 당분에 펜바다 아니 고바 켜바제 동안 아니 펜바다 고바 켜바제 뒤체도 아니 배 가세 마바제 진도가 전부 요래 루기 닝부들 렌토고 도와 루기 닝부들 렌토고 도와
And so this was, of course, when the time arrived, the Buddha was able to give in such a way, give of his very flesh, his very body, and without difficulty. This is the issue here, that there's that capacity to be able to take the very essence of the situation. And of course, this doesn't happen at the beginning. And this is, again, happens through the process of habituation. And so that one trains the mind in giving, the mind of generosity to its kind of very ultimate, so that when it comes to that time that one can give of the body without any difficulty and spontaneously and without any, of course, regret.
다 시바 델라 동에 매징 대외 다 델라 동에 열서 동에 요마 델라 동에 매징사 아니 대화 개베 개베서 가와리 발라 시자 람 투베 림발라 미 잠르 발라 미 가서 투발라 림바 미케베 간사라 류세 미다와 요레 예자 아니 람 투발라 케베 케바델라 가제게 동에 요마레스 데나 셈바 첨보서 셈바 첨보 코안 내발라 교회 규매라 다 셈바 첨보도 지나 가서도 코알레 예바죠 연종기는 코알레 타다 나네 나와서 연종게 코알레 타다 아니 디 카시알라 보내 심제시 코알 나줄라 미수베 니지게네 심제시 코아 동에 자줄라 타다 거다 남는 난거 요다 심제가 된두베 쳐도 아니 로다 가자 코안 내발라 아니 교화 가요 말이야 그거 봐봐잖아요 교회 규매라 좀제 대다 임바이자 좀제 되나 람드발라 택바 멤버레 케버셔바서 택바 멤버레 케버셔바 되나 셈베서 줘발라서 길루바 미리바 오서 어떤데 임바서 어떤데 그냥 가서데 셈베 줘발라발라 되게 게세 그냥 내가 줘발라발라 아니 길루바 나 티그마레스 미리바 오서
And so this brings us to a fourth outline. And here it's explained as that one then one should be really joyful that we can eradicate suffering, and that we can allow happiness and bliss to increase. And this is dealt with in 4 subheadings. The first of these is that when one, moving gradually along the path, those who are without expertise will experience suffering of body and mind, whereas those who have expertise will not suffer due to hardship. Secondly, these bodhisattvas, these great bodhisattvas, will be able to abide in cyclic existence, in the great ocean of cyclic existence, without any despondency and without any downheartedness. And this, of course, is their motivation for being here. They understand how all sentient beings are mired in this state of suffering. And so it's through this motivation of compassion that they operate. Thereby, there's no regret or no sadness in their life. And for this reason, it is said that the bodhisattva life or attitude excels that of the Shravaka vehicle practitioner. And therefore, it's kind of like there is no place for any kind of despondency or second guessing, really, in the life of a bodhisattva, in the actions of a bodhisattva.
단지 말이 받아 란젠진이게 치와 슉슉 요바 rakpa 슉슉 요바 인사 오다 된데다 투베다 카고레 삼사제 로이도 마숑가지도 와 디가리 게 말해서 가라서 줄에 잠지지 잔주가 셈내버체 다음에 또 배셔라 매버체 다 디기잖아 잔주가 셈다 다음에 또 배셔라 게 디야 내세야 토다 되는 아니 지금 가세 가야 매겐치 라다 조겐치 로 앞에다 류기 짐바 땅한테 장사 사당보 렌멘도 가서데 워스콜로 다다디 가서데 다다디 소게라 나와 요마레 사당보 알레소나 이시랑식 류투 차레这写了几把当晚人那样点到觉得绿水用过有的可是呢초사게 디바 슈청보 다네 아니 다음에 무슨 또 장주가 센터 돈이 또 배셔라 무슨 돈이 또 돈이 무슨 또 배셔라 장주가 셈 요사다 팔람 탑사데 그 류네 주고 여러와 아 디바다 되게 나타 지바 또 첩보 다에게 배 튕게 마상 왔다 나 어제 튕게 마상 왔다 강에 태도 류게 샤타라서 지바 다에다 강에 여도요 디마 라라 예베게 아니 뭐보 라바 된데 지바 다에 배 사야 통에 된데 지바 다 뭐냐 저는 사야 통에 지바 마다나 소소 사마도나 간자도 거 육다에 털라 두고도 털라 마도 거는 지바 땅도는 오늘 집에 가서다다 제부 렌토 거와 이나디 삼로 코고면 도와 젠제 온걸로 투면 도와 로다 지금 알레 사토나 마토나 지 냐디에 소리 차디기도 와 되도 다 그 류당스도 시오지 카보레 차대 로다 카보레 그때 땅바 이네 다 지금 소소게 지금 류고 온보레 잡아내 소소게 지금 가부 여사 직부 여사 지르면도 대야다 딱 맞는데 제대로 셈딩네 대바 매네 양 아, 그래서 야 마테나 마티게 소리 된데 제바 가지 도시가 되게 공부를 봐야 그러고 다 장성게 아니 지금 내제 야 토도 아니 배 냠랭고 오게 배내야 토도 아니 거 랑수게 아니 배 가시 도시 거나 때투에 대야 배 딜라 때네 되고 랍침부 뚝뚝에 되는 용도도 다 가서 자주 그서 돈이도 배 샤라게 제 야숙 체다 저도 강에 매봐자 학도도 안배 루기 집바다에 내세 무엇 거라 집바다에 때 사당불 알래네 아니 집바다에게 아니 나와서도 여러 딩게라 배 가서 됐다 또에 서바 콤리면도 지방고서 당에 매봐자 지방고서 다 디디 당을 강에 요 말이야 그래서 이 랑리 가서 이시랑 그 류투 사대 된도 저도 류투 두번 거요 아니 근데 내가 강에 개면도 당고도 당고 내 당고들 강에래 가서 단지 말이고 숙청보 란전제 숙청보 디카도 강에도 다 단지 말이다 란전제 공부 디 토마 매번에 착보전 대바데 디 숙청다 충다 직 땅답지 맞아와 이나 아니 뒤 남이야 집앞에 답을 타야다 수준비 답을 송에 카고 차대도 저보다 건강 냠내 차다 따다 용문도 다 되가 랑게 가서 대지가 대는 제투에 내가 저러다 삼로당 제바체 아니 산제 송내치다 랑게 제바데 냠용다 건강나 돈에 아니 뭐 저거 저 아니 되네 대 가서도 롭종에 제 저중고 시라게 아니 되네 야 양의 양도 제바체네 삼중고 시라게 왔다 디마도 레모도 성녀밖에 왔들라 아니 검자는 검중고 시라게 아니 되네 제도 아니 갈리갈리 제투 투 정도로 와
And so, the idea of being able to give one's body in this way sounds fantastic to us at the moment, and that too outrageous. So it's kind of like we have to understand that we are operating, our viewpoint is from a beginner's viewpoint, where the mind is very much not just clouded but weighed down by self-cherishing and self-grasping, and it's that coarse mindsets of really feeling the kind of like the straitjacket of our self-cherishing and self-grasping, and therefore it's even difficult to conceive of being able to give one's body in this way. That this means that, that our minds are lacking in love, compassion, and particularly wisdom. And that it's a once these minds start to increase, not just in frequency, but in depth and in profundity as well, that more and more becomes possible for us, and ultimately all becomes not just possible, but much easier for us, so that to be able to give the body is going to be of no more trouble than to give a meal or some vegetables. So you have to understand that when we talk about the giving of the body, it's kind of like this is one of the means by which an actual Arya Bodhisattva can give. Somebody who has realized emptiness directly, has attained the path of an Arya, and thereby the first Bodhisattva ground. And so so much more becomes the potential, it becomes so much more greater then, that when one is giving the body, that it's not kind of like, doesn't spell the end of that life, but it's automatically restored again, and through the power of the mindset with which it is given. And so this is important as well, that the conducive conditions, as it were, for such a profound and amazing act of generosity are fulfilled by some practitioner, a being who has attained the first ground of a bodhisattva. We haven't. And, sort of like, if we were to foolhardily and imperfectly give our body at this point, it would be wasted. And so we have to see where we're at and to understand what we can and can't do, because we haven't got the conducive conditions. It's so to be able to, really give what we can now, a decent meal, objects, presents, gifts, and so on, to be able to become more and more familiar, more and more habituated to being able to do that at the moment. And so is very, very important. And that here is to understand that what we are developing here, what we are trying to habituate, is the mind of generosity, where the processes of thinking become more and more spontaneous, to conclude that the giving is something that is the most natural and obvious and spontaneous thing to do, and more and more and more. This is the process of habituation. And so again, as a beginner, where we see ourselves, again, we are in a way shackled by self-cherishing and self-grasping, and therefore everything becomes more clunky and difficult and problematic for us. And so it's kind of like, really, the more we loosen those shackles, in other words, the more we are able to act to and put the emphasis on others and the importance of others and their welfare and their happiness, the more then we are able to expand our own mindset, and particularly in this case, that mind of generosity. We can see from our own experience, isn't it, how tricky it is for us to engage in virtue of any kind, because we are shackled by these nefarious mindsets of self-cherishing and self-grasping. But again, that the training is there for us, that we can slowly habituate and to change things around, to take the kind of like debilitating selfishness of thinking only of ourselves, and to change that, to swap that for being able to appreciate others more and more. This is the kind of the foundation of this process, and then that will allow us to free us up to even consider the idea of giving more and more and more.
刚才给出去的东海三八空，前面培训三了当，我打的出去没得个是所外的是吧？这个出去给送来培训三了当，我等的真的，我等的，送来三八空，我等的这，大概的这告诉的所外大概的咯，所外给培训三了当，空中年面三了当，我等的真的，所外空一个偏把毛的当，所外空一个，这个偏把毛的当呢。我的这个说把给咱们送也什么空，我的真他感觉我的这我尊重的那些钱，我感觉的那些三路单呢，当不管是三路男呢，就可说的我那阵呢，接触一个女把家中国多，我的对吧的，我基本拍把单位呢，基本拍把单位的嘞，我的脚步的下是的那个三路单没把钱的，我的脚步印象，俺了顾客不中的。산재 공부 주변 그게네 집에 냠내 지 국업지 총수 어다 야고 총수서 저 간제 타입에 막게 섬제 탐제가 된주에 국업지 총수 선서 어다 같이 쪼신 거네 집바다에 집바 땅에 갑래 배 라니게 배 구백 권에 집바다에게 산재 공부 유튜브에게 최대 집바다 어디 껴버리 샷서 가서래 어디에 좀 멤버제네 어다 디 껴보기 괜찮네 나 산재 공부 주변에 집에 냠내 야보 용하게 어다 국업지 työ소 다 야고 시우 중소 삼사전 어디 가시 쪼신 거네 제다 시우 개정 뭐래 또 했어 봐도네
And so this, of course, the understanding of the benefits of generosity, that mind of generosity. It's worth mentioning too that this all goes together. When we talk about generosity, we're talking about understanding and really becoming familiar with the benefits of ethical conduct, of patience, of enthusiastic effort, etc., etc. It's a very, very important. And the second thing to really understand that we are all about potential, that we have this potential to be able to, as it were, give, as it pointed out, but to be able to operate at a much higher level, and that to begin in kind of in the context of this chapter by when we see an occasion whereby an act of generosity is possible, with not to think of ourselves as poor, as incapable, but rather to see this as a wonderful opportunity, a chance with my motivation to be of benefit to countless sentient beings, and to bring that sense of joy and enthusiasm to that act, to follow that through with an act of generosity. That bringing that sort of habituation to mind is a very powerful way of developing that mind of generosity.
단다 상승의 짐바데 마음벌게 추가 짐바 단도에 줄을 주어서 어디에 공부 시점
And that, thinking that now is my I have the capacity to give of material things, and may this become the capacity to be able to give the gift of Dharma in the future.
당연히 어디 집에 냠내 제와데 대화게 대화 동바게 대돈이스메 이시 계속서 어디에 공부 시점에 야고요 어디에
And so as a result of an act of generosity, for example, like this, it's very good to try to experience that sense of bliss, which combines with voidness, and we can momentarily abide in the wisdom of non-dual bliss and voidness. That's extremely good. So let's leave it there for today. So once again, bring your focus to the Guru Buddha in the space in front. Into the
감소 좋아지도 가밖에 봐 있네. 동네가 라실입니다. 바로 교회 동네. 아니 동네도 교회에 잡아 두제가 동네를 맞대 버다 잡아 두제가 동네에 빠마도는 못은 동네 용해래. 살아 왔다. 어디에 공부 시에네. 어디에 전에 아니 니가 저 예절 공부 시에 근데 예배 로데 랑게 주고 빼마다 제시를 주소 삼사차 아니 지난 게 근데 여봐 이네 유대는 주바서는 뉴스로 요마래서 코다 줘서 유대는 주바는 코된 거에 좀 제모다 때는 연구도 와 다들 거 유대는 맞고 다도 코다 줘봐 공부 시에 근데 예배 로데 니매 좀 거냐 공부 주소 삼사차 다 근데 이마 인사 다 subject 탐지가 산제 공부 중에 있어 그 두투에 저르샤 그 주제 때를 때는 요 그 두투에 저르샤 어디라 tawa dila tere nyeba nyene ta dila tukte ma tu tu simje tamje sanje ko ma tu da ta tawa ne yo sa ma de ta tuwe yo wa ma tu da ta de da tu yi samsan je ko ane dende nyebe da sanje ko ma to chiba de ni do toba sho toba jigi sa sa logic ane 다외 진고 냐가와 주는 그래서 님의 진고 때는 내서 삼사지 때는 반대자와 라바로 다기 주어서 그래 구조도 좀 모두 손대전 담비 가서 배 입에 가서 수면 거 땡죠 산재 고마마도 오데 제수도 다 야고 쉬우 좀도 산재 아니 야나도 뭐 멘제다 저거 지 어디서
So then bringing our mind to focus on the Guru Buddha in the space in front, we develop that sense of renunciation, understanding that here we are, this kind of mind, this reality, which is in the nature of suffering, knowing that, without removing ourselves, releasing ourselves, gaining liberation from this state, we are only going to experience that suffering. So we make this definite kind of sense of emergence, wanting to gain release from this, bringing forth that mind of renunciation, which is symbolized by the lotus mandala seed on our crown. And then through reflecting on the fact that all inner and outer phenomena lack any objective existence, they are in no way established from their own side, develops that sense of the emptiness of inherent existence, etc. And that just focusing on that brings forth the mere negation of that, brings forth the sun disk mandala, which is on our crown. And then understanding that through understanding the lack of any objective existence proves that phenomena arise in dependence upon, for example, causes and conditions. And this brings forth the possibility of gaining the state of enlightenment for the benefit of all sentient beings. That if we can put all the causes and conditions in place, then that state, that attainment is inevitable. And therefore, we make that strong conviction that we will attain the state of enlightenment in order to benefit all sentient beings. I must attain that state. And that sense of definite conviction brings forth the moon disk mandala seat on our crown. And then we utter the invocation verse for the Guru Buddha to come there. O glorious and precious root Guru, come take your lotus and moon seat placed here on my crown. Keep me safe in your kindness. Bestow on me the attainments of body, speech, and mind. But then we make the 7-limb practice offering and the offering of the mandala.
chaba tuje ke dunga pa ma to na ane dile rota ka chaje dile tene rota ka chaje uta chaba tuje ke dunga de onge ta yue dunga da dunga de ke yong ti lyo so cha da de pa la rota ko de je ta je mari ba to pa tu mo to ota de je an ta de yin ba yin za ota ko le ye ba jo yin jo ko ba she yan jo she jo cha an de ye be lo de rang ni de pa ma ta ge che le ju so sam sa che ane 다 근데 다 간자 지금 근데 심지 탐정에도 산재 고마 주기 있어 연중 공기 있어 나한테 가봐도 제죠 근데 나한테 가봐도 제죠 내 류들이 내 셈들이 돼 딜리시바 같이도 뭐도 뭐다 제죠 아니 나스게 됐다 düzan인 것도 류라 파제죠 류디가 파차셔라는 반 이게 뭐도 셈래 깨진간지는 봐줘 이게 뭐도 다 간자 나스게 돼 유대는 두 번째 다 봐. 매번에 커다 쳐셨어 我的那个语的主播没我的他队长嘛主播的扩大去吧我的恐怕是得了3下嘎扎嘎怎么的干了3下啊那等等也别落的而的那个宁白嘛大家看来你没经过人家讲就说是我他语的主播队长没把人把人啥过点的中啊的等等人把人咋他甚至他们这个三节恐怕是个他中就有吧这里下色的我他 데 공부 시에는 다 근데 좀 요바 좀 맞은 조금 다 가네틱 근데 이번에 심지어 탐정에도 산재고 대 유한이도 마토나 지금 토바치기 삼사로지고 근데 그 dum바티 아니 다외진 거 약간 같이 주네 아니 그래서 님의经过기 때문에 내가 소사 빠졌어요. 라마를 못 다가 니가 빼면 가서 구수 투정 무도 자도서 대달 라마 투배 온보데 아니 랑게 집어내 마슈네 왜 세게 남아지지 마슈네 랑게 니가 가도라 저 빠졌어요. 라마를 못 다가 니가 빼면 가서 구수 투정 무도 답을 가서 니가 가서 수배 때려 산재 고마마도 그래서 다 약고 쉬우 충소서 가고 근데 니 빼마다 제대 남진 니 대단한 신데 뒤가도 도지가고 상관없이 가지 뒤 타고도 또 배짱가 다야도 뭐는 마음을 써 rimba sungi kotowa. Tene, oma arabasa nati de chidi jambenga sunga rimba sungi kotowa. Tene, tendega sunga oma yeda wada ma shamana iso rimba sungi kotowa. Tene chi kumbashi.
And so then, having made the seven limb practice and the mandala offering, we again contemplate the mind of renunciation in forming the same configuration of the suitable seating arrangement at our own heart center. And so again, it's through understanding that renunciation is this understanding that once, as long as we have that sense of pervasive suffering, there is both neither a release from cyclic existence and also there will be the inducement of the suffering of change and the suffering of suffering also. And so the importance of understanding that we must uproot the very root cause of cyclic existence, namely the ignorance of self-grasping, becomes all important. And through that understanding, it brings forth that lotus mandala seat at our own heart center, representing renunciation. And then also this I that we are talking about in these sentences wish to attain liberation from from cyclic existence and to wish to attain enlightenment for the benefit of all sentient beings, etc. That I, we have to ask the question: where is this I, this sense of self? Where in the combination of body and mind is it to be found? And we go through this process of analysis, searching for that I. Is it in the body? Is it in the parts of the body? Is it in the mind stream of the past and future moments of mind? And it's through this searching, this genuine, sincere searching and not finding, that we reach that point of the mere negation of the object of negation. We do not find what we have been looking for, and we place our mindset, do a placement meditation, just on that mere not finding of the object of negation. And that brings forth the sun disk mandala, representing that wisdom that that is on at our heart center as well. And then through that understanding that nothing is established objectively, that independently, that we conclude that therefore phenomena arise in dependence, and that this brings forth the whole the cause and effect validation that we can establish these causes and conditions in order to attain the subsequent results that are connected to those causes and conditions. Therefore, I resolve to quickly attain a state of enlightenment, because I see that is the only state from which I can really fully and perfectly benefit sentient beings. And so I will do this. So this aspiration of the mind of enlightenment brings forth the moon disk mandala seat. And again, we utter the invocation verse for our Guru Munindra to come from the crown down through the central channel. And we recite, O glorious and precious root Guru, come take your lotus and moon seed placed here at my heart. Keep me safe in your kindness. Bestow on me the attainments of body, speech, and mind. At the end of the first recitation, the figure moves down through the crown chakra into the central channel. At the end of the second recitation, the figure comes to sit at our pre-prepared seat at the heart center. And at the end of the third, we have this beautiful certainty that the Buddha will remain until we attain enlightenment. And this is something that we rejoice in. And we think this is a really, really wonderful. And then the petals of the lotus fold over and are sealed at their tips by a white five-pronged vajra. And that package then is surrounded by three mantras. The first, the name mantra of Shakyamuni Buddha in a clockwise direction. And then the mantra of Manjushri in an anti-clockwise direction. And finally, the mantra of dependent origination, again in a clockwise direction.
rangi nyingu so lama tuwe obo neba di kusu tole wese pato pepe choda rangi chibo ne kandi pala wese ki tue ne wese ki tue che ne ta kanche rangi lugi ane nang tache rota china nang tache wese ki chab ne wadide chabde wadide dile wadide che ne ane thoma meba ne sabe ta so chuwa majima zuyen chama tsido nga che nakse nyosan la saba nakse nyosan lokta la sobe ta kanche chebe kanda rangshiga pato ma toba 다가니시 세티 생각마 통화매만 사ben 디버지고 다가니시게 아니 소소답에 도바다가 자주서 라바다가 상가에 다세다가 파다말라마구바데 치보다 로벨라마구바데 조사와서 구조수라 내지바 담배 쳐보 법에 준대라 구하다가 심제라 내배 내지바서 디바비 지와서 다기 지와 셰라 기도지와 셰기발라 제소 이라와서 다 예바 간제서 싸와 예바 이래야 바 장치 다소 삼사차 아니 하도도 뉴도 산제 고만 도발라 탐에게 나셔도 견 치주 입어서 탐에게 나셔 견 탐제 땅 가나 탐제 땅 바람샤 바시 차도 다 야고 쉬우 총소 서서 공바시
And so therefore, that from now the light rays begin to emanate from the Guru Manindra at our heart center, permeating every single cell of our bodies, from the crown of the head down through the soles of the feet. As these lights emanate from body, speech, and mind of the Guru Manindra. And they are affecting a powerful purification of all negativities that we have accumulated since the beginning of this time. Such as the 10 non-virtues of killing, stealing, sexual misconduct, of lying, harsh speech, divisive speech, and idle gossip, and of covetousness and malicious intent, and all the different instances of wrong view. And that all naturally occurring negativities and all those acts which have been proscribed by the Buddha, that all of the infractions and downfalls related to the Pratimoksha vows or the Bodhisattva vows or the Tantric vows, all disrespect that we have shown to our parents right up to our gurus, and all of the harm that we have engaged into directly ourselves or incited others to engage in or rejoiced in the doing of, all different aspects of our negativities. These are all completely and utterly purified. There is a reconfiguration of our channels and winds and drops and of our elements. They are rebalanced. And also the main obstacle to our quickly being able to attain enlightenment, that is of ordinary appearance, is swapped now, is transformed into our being able to view with pure appearance.
소주 신도 처럼 농데 년래가 라마샤자스 그 투데 현지 꾸데 현지 지게도 소주류도 라마샤자스 그 꿀을 주소 섬서 랑 소수의 신도 처럼 세븐 년래 라마샤자스 그 투데 현지 지겐잖아 랑게 세다 라마샤자스 그 툴을 주 랑게 룽아에서도 라마샤자스 그 구조도 뭐 예매 교수 디 대화테 대회 동반냐 대론이스마 이시 교수서 란에서 그 내대 내 기타자 라마샤자스 그 답에시도 교수 섬서 랑 라마샤자스 그 구조도 뭐 예매 교네 나라라시 메바 삼로차 디 투가라 라마샤자 수바 셈제게 자다냐바 되네 아니 감속게 셈제 탐자 라마샤자스가 착상화레레 슈발라 되네 대다사자 이기지가 라마샤자스 구수도 모베 예베 주소서 대다게 내사가 내대 내의 교원 탐자 되네 라마샤자스가 당바시도 주소 다 셈제 탐자가 저 산제 공부들 셈제 탐자 산제 가 살아 구고 니마들이 그 주소 다 야고 시고 주소 서서 공부시
And then through the combination of my own more subtle, sorry, of my own more subtle mind act as a wind acting as the substantial cause, together with the body of the Buddha acting as the cooperative conditions, my own body is transformed into the enlightened body of a Buddha. And through the combination of my own more subtle consciousness of mind acting as the substantial cause, together with the mind of the Buddha acting as the cooperative conditions, my own mind is transformed into the enlightened mind of a Buddha. I see now that all my whole body, speech, and mind are inseparable from the body, speech, and mind of an enlightened being. This is something wonderful. I rejoice in this. This is something that brings forth a sense of bliss which combines with voidness, and I abide in the wisdom of non-dual bliss and voidness. And then seeing myself as a fully enlightened being and also lacking any inherent existence, I send out a light rays from my own heart center, equal in number to all the sentient beings in all the realms of existence. And upon dissolving into them, they spontaneously arise as fully enlightened beings. And their abode also, their place of residence, is transformed into the enlightened celestial realm of an enlightened being. I see then that I have been able to fulfill the purpose of leading all sentient beings to the state of enlightenment. This is surely a really significant day. Again, I rejoice in this, and this is absolutely wonderful.
다 심지어 탐자 산지가 살았고 봐. 랑이 겨와 가도 봐. 소소 두고 소소 저 유대도 두고 두사 영어 봐네. 그래서 고마시. 또 파다 잡으려서 아니 기 대화대 대화도 봐. 대도인지 뭐 이식게 소소자자.
And then seeing and this leading all sentient beings to the state of enlightenment, the merit which has facilitated that, myself as the agent of that merit, all lacking any objective existence and being merely imputed by thought. This brings forth a sense of bliss which combines with voidness, and again I abide in the wisdom of non-dual bliss and voidness.
오다 오다다 매바 이제 저 문에 코나 때데 두요 말이 돼 이나야 단다 삼로 땅완네 시장 문에 코나 때데 용에게 뇨니도 용에 규를 교가쇼 디 용하라 소소 산제 고마 토고도 디 용하라 라자주고서 돈이도 베셔라게 규민바지 제국도 때데 이마 이제 다 탑시 가르도서나 오다 네 기부 주나다 두부 주나다 내가 그래지 차바 이나야 디 자주 그서다 돈이 또 베셔라 계획에 튕겨라 자와 개견라 타고 게 속이 삼사자 개가 나치 그는 타마 치와이네 치와 자주 그섬 게다 돈이 또 베셔라 계획에 튕겨라 주도 버게 지 삼사 패바타
And of course, this is operating at the level of aspiration and imagination here. But I really vow that, what I am visualizing here may it become to be made manifest as quickly as possible. And this means, I understand that this means myself, actually attaining the state of enlightenment. And in order to do that, I need to generate that mind of enlightenment in an artificial way. And that, of course, is dependent upon generating and developing and cultivating love and compassion. And in order to do this, I need to operate from moment to moment so that I am able to, regardless of whether I am happy or sad or neutral or in any state of mind or whatever my situation is, to be able to see every moment as a conducive condition to being able to enhance the love and compassion in my own mindset, and to kind of really not see anything as an inconducive condition for the doing of that and the generating of those mindsets. In your duda lama sange drogyo Drowo che kyang malu pa de yi sa la do har shok jan jub sem cho rim che ma ke pa nam ke gyur che ke pa nyam pa me pa yong gong ne gong du pa wan shu gong ni da wa rim pu che ma ke pa nam ke gyur che ke pa nyam pa ba me pa yang gong ne gong du pel war shom Yang ri wa wei ko wei xin kam de pen dang de wa ma lu zheng wei ne chen re zi wang ten xin ge zo yi sha pe si te ba du ten gyu chi Ing mei cei wei te chen chen re zi Ngui men kem pe wang po cham pe liang gong chen ken pe tu ken song ka pa lo sang drag pe sha lo so wa de me me te we ka chen chen re zi dreaming can pay wong po jam pal liao Gong chen can pay tu kien song ka bam lo sang drag pay shab lo so wa de mig me te we chen chen re Ngri me kem pe wong po jam pa liang Gong chen ken pei tu ken song ka pa lo sang drai pei sha lo so wa de you are Avalokiteshvara, a great treasure of compassion, not aimed at true existence, and Manjushri, master of flawless wisdom, as well as Vajrapani, destroyer of hordes of demons without exception, Sankapa, crown jewel of the sages of the land of snows, Losang Drakpa, and make requests at your feet.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you,
Yeah,
Gilwa.
thank you.